Hey loves, Tony from TL Yarn Crafts here with another fun and free crochet pattern. This time around we're making the Harper Bucket Bag, a must-have summer accessory. Featuring elements of traditional and Tunisian crochet, we're getting a chance to stretch our skills and make something we'll use every time the weather warms up. I'll talk a bit about the yarn I use, some possible substitutions, and walk you through this project step by step. While watching this video, I encourage you to follow along with the Harper Bucket Bag pattern, which you can find for free on my blog, TLYCblog.com. You can also find a printer-friendly, ad-free version of the pattern on my website, TLYarncrafts.com. Links to both of these resources are in the description. The original sample of the Harper Bucket Bag is made with 2 balls of Lion Brand Rewind in the color Citronella, which is a warm gold. Today we're making it in Greige, which is a cool gray linen color. Rewind is a level 5 bulky polyester blend tape yarn that's really amazing to crochet with. Now, if you can't get your hands on Rewind, then try holding 2 strands of worsted weight cotton or acrylic together, and you could also try a bulky weight tube cotton yarn like Lion Brand's new sponge cake yarn. I've linked a few yarn substitutions in the description below. In addition to the yarn, we need a few tools, including a 5mm crochet hook, a 5.5mm Tunisian crochet hook with 28-inch cord, a pair of scissors, a tapestry needle, a couple large beads, and locking stitch markers. If you're excited to make the Harper Bucket Bag, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel so you don't miss future pattern releases, product reviews, and giveaways. Now let's jump into the Harper Bucket Bag pattern. So we'll begin by making the base, which starts with a 5mm hook. Also today, I'm super excited to show you my new favorite method for making a magic ring. So you want to start by having your tail in your right hand and lay it over your open palm. And then take the other side of the yarn, wrap it around your finger twice, take the loop closest to your knuckle and pull it over the second loop, then second loop over the first and off of your finger. What you'll notice now is that the tail actually closes the ring. So we'll open it up a little bit, flip it over, and begin by placing 6 single crochet in the ring. Insert, yarn over and pull up the loop, yarn over and chain 1, and then 6 single crochet. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now we'll just want to grab that tail and pull tightly to close our ring. Just like that. We'll continue from here by working in a spiral, so let's do a quick count of our stitches so we can keep an eye on everything. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we're going to go right into that 6th single crochet. Here in round 2, we're going to increase in each stitch, so that means placing 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So there's 1 in the first, and 2 in the first, just like that. There's 1 and 2 in the second, 1 and 2 in the third, 1 and 2 in the fourth, 1 and 2 in the fifth, 1 and 2 in the sixth. So let's do a count again just to make sure we've got everything. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Now from here, I do want to start marking my rounds. So I'm going to use the tail from my magic ring actually to be my stitch marker. So I'm just going to take that tail, bring it to the front, and tuck it right underneath the stitch I just made to be a stitch marker for me. Now in round 3, we're going to do 2 single crochet in the first stitch and 1 in the following. And we're going to repeat that around. So 2 in the next stitch, 1 and 2, 1 in the following stitch, 2 in the next, and 1 in the following. And since we have our stitch marker in, we don't have to try and remember exact counts. Just make sure you keep the stitch pattern. So 1 in this next stitch, 2 in the following, and 1 in the one after that. Repeat that around. And by the end of this round, we should have 18 stitches. So we're back at our stitch marker. And we know we have 18 stitches, so now we can just move our stitch marker up. Again, tuck it underneath the stitch we just made. Moving on to round 4, we're going to start with 1 single crochet in the first stitch and then get into our pattern repeat. So that's 2 single crochet in the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, and 2. The reason we do that is because we want to stagger our increases. We don't want our increases on top of each other because then we'll end up with a hexagon instead of a nice round base. Instead, we want to have a perfect circle, and that's why we're staggering our increases. So that was just an increase, and now we've got a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches, 2 single crochet in the following stitch, a single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Increase in this stitch, and single in each of the next 2. There's 1 and 2. Now we're at our last couple of stitches. We're going to put 2 single crochets in the first and 1 single crochet in the last stitch. So here's 2 single crochets going in this stitch and 1 in the final stitch. Rounds 5 through 12 are more of our staggered increases, and then round 13 is just a round of single crochet. I'm going to work those off camera. Meet me back here for the last round of our base, which is round 14. Just finishing up round 13 here, which again was just a round of single crochets. You'll notice that I did end up weaving in the tail from my magic ring, and I started using a locking stitch marker to mark my rounds. So you can do that whenever is most comfortable for you. So I'm just getting to the last stitch of round 13. I'm going to pull out my marker and move it to the last stitch that I made to get it ready for my next round. Now here in round 14, it's just single crocheting around, but we're focusing on the back loop. So let me get in tight so I can show you the difference between the front and the back loop really quick. Each stitch has a front and back loop. So typically we're working under both loops. Here's our front loop and here's our back loop. This is the loop we're focusing on for this round. So we're going to single crochet around, working only under the back loop. So insert your hook under the back loop only, yarn over and pull the loop, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete the single crochet. And this will help give some definition to our base and give it a nice curve into the body of our bag. So I'm going to keep working around, just single crocheting in each stitch, making sure I focus only on the back loop. Join me when you're done with this round. Just a couple more stitches here, and I can drop my marker. I'm good with it for now. Work that last stitch. Now going into the body of our bag, we are going to be working in joined rounds. So we're going to establish a beginning and an end of our rounds. What I'm showing here is just that back loop round gave us a nice edge for our base. And as we work up the body of our bag, there will be an obvious kind of foundation and the sides of our bag. So let's get into starting the body of our bag. We're going to continue with our 5mm hook, slip stitch in the next stitch. So insert yarn over, pull through both loops on the hook. And we're going to follow that with a chain 1 and single crochet in the same stitch. So now we've established the beginning of our round, and we'll just want to single crochet all the way around. Keep working on that and meet me at the end of the round. I'll show you how we'll join and continue. Here at the end of round 1 of the body, we're going to join with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the round. So just go under both loops of that first single crochet and complete a slip stitch. To start round 2, we'll chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch as the join, and we're going to single crochet all the way around. And we're actually going to do that for 4 total rounds. So we just completed round 1, we're working on round 2 now, and we'll want to single crochet around for rounds 3 and 4. I'm going to work those off camera. Join me back here and we'll get into the first set of Tunisian crochet rows for our bag. We're about done here with round 4. We're going to join with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the round. And if we take just a moment to admire our work, we can see that we have a clearly defined base and we're now working up the sides. These single crochet stitches are going to anchor our Tunisian crochet stitches, which we're about to get into. So we're going to switch to our 5.5mm Tunisian crochet hook. And I'm using my Clover set. I've included a link down below with a video of several of my favorite sets. Now we want to make sure we have a 28-inch cord on here. It's going to be super important to have a long cord, because we're going to have lots of stitches. So we're going to go ahead and insert our hook. We're going to chain 1, and we're going to skip the first stitch and go into the next stitch. Insert, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Keep that loop on your hook, and we're going to do that for each stitch around. Now another thing to keep note is your tension. You don't want these stitches to be too tight, because then your full stitch is going to be very short and it'll be tough to get that really beautiful stitch definition that you're looking for. So we're just going to go all the way around here, pulling up loops in each stitch. By the end, we should have 72 loops on our hook. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit and show you what happens when we get to the end of this row. I really wish I crocheted that fast in real life. Okay, so we're towards the end, and we know we are because we're out of stitches, and we don't want to worry about any kind of joining here. Instead, we're going to work these in rows, and we're going to seam up the opening at the back of our work at the end. So all of our loops are on our hook, and at this point, we'll want to begin our return pass. We'll begin with a chain 1, yarn over, pull through 1 loop on your hook, and then yarn over, pull through the next 2 loops. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, just like a normal Tunisian crochet return pass. And we're going to do that until we have 1 loop left on our hook, and then we'll get into the 2-row repeat of our Tunisian full stitch. So just a couple more stitches left on our return pass. We've got 1 loop left on our hook. Let's just do a quick check-in here. This is what your project should look like at this point. So you've got a row of foundation Tunisian crochet stitches essentially. They're not joined at the back, but like I said, we'll address that later. So now let's get into the full stitch, which is a 2-row repeat. So insert your hook. We're going to find the space between the first and second stitches. So we're going to find the stitch that is right at the base of our loop. So that's our first stitch. And the one next to it is our second stitch. We want to go into the hole in between those two. So insert your hook into that space, yarn over, and pull up the loop. Make sure that loop isn't too tight. And we're going to go into the next space and each space after that until we get to the space before the final stitch. So going into the space, yarn over, pull up a loop. Keep those loops nice and high. You want it to be consistent and even all the way across so you get nice, smooth Tunisian full stitches. So insert, yarn over, pull up the loop, going into the space, being sure we don't split any of our stitches. So continue that until you get to the space before your last stitch. Here we are with just a couple of stitches left. Now we've got that final space before the last stitch, and we're going to skip that one and work under both loops of our last stitch. There we go. Yarn over and pull up that loop. And then we can do our return pass from here. Now the reason we skip the space before the last stitch is because if we worked in that space, we'd have too many stitches on our hook. For the Tunisian full stitch, it is a 2-row repeat because you have to skip at least one space to maintain your stitch count. So what we're going to do is we worked our first space at the beginning of the round. In our next round, we're going to skip the first space, but work the space before the last stitch. In the round after that, we're going to work the space after the first stitch and skip the space before the last stitch. And you just continue doing that, and it will make sure that your piece works up vertically in a very even way, as opposed to having any weird increases, decreases, or shaping. You can find specific details about that in the pattern, which is again on TLYCblog.com. We're getting close to finishing that return pass. One loop left on my hook. I'm tugging it down to make sure I keep even edges. So now, since we worked the first stitch in the first space, we're going to skip this first space this time and instead work in the space between the second and third stitches. Insert yarn over, pull up the loop, insert yarn over, pull up the loop. And we're going to do that all the way across. Meet me at the end of the row and I'll show you how we'll finish it up. We're here at the end of the row, so we've got another stitch here. Now we're at the space before the last stitch, and we do need to work that space before we work our last stitch. We're going to insert into that space, yarn over and pull up a loop, and now we can work our last stitch and complete the return pass as normal. The body of our Harper Bucket Bag has 29 total rows of Tunisian crochet. So that's 28 rows of our 2-row repeat plus the 1 row of the foundation stitches that we did at the beginning. So continue to work in Tunisian full stitch to 29 total rows of Tunisian crochet, and then join me back here where we'll get back into joined regular crochet rounds. So we're about done. For the sake of the tutorial, I didn't do all of the rows, but you can get the gist of what we're looking at here, this beautiful smooth Tunisian full stitch. At the end of the last return pass, we're going to insert our 5mm hook and transition out of Tunisian crochet. We're going to do that with starting with a chain 1, and then we're going to insert our hook into the space between the first and second stitch, pull up a loop, and complete a single crochet. Insert into the next space, pull up a loop, complete the single crochet. We're going to do that all the way across to give us a nice smooth finish to transition us out of Tunisian crochet. We're going to do that in each space across, including the space before the last stitch, and then we're going to insert our hook under both loops of the last stitch and complete a single crochet there as well. Here at the end of the row, remember, we're going to single crochet in the space before the last stitch and single crochet under both loops of the last stitch. Next, we're going to bring the end towards the beginning so we can start working in joined rounds again. Find that first single crochet, insert your hook under both loops, and slip stitch to join. From here, this is round 6. We're going to start with a chain 1, and we need to put a series of chain spaces. So we're going to single crochet in the first stitch, chain 2, skip 2, and single crochet in each of the next 3. There's 1, 2, and 3. Again, chain 2, skip 2, single crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to do this 6 total times. So I'm going to speed it up just a little bit and show you what happens after we complete our 6 repeats. We just finished those 6 repeats, and now we're going to do something similar. We're just going to switch up the count a little bit. Start with a chain 2, we're going to skip 2 and single crochet 2, and we're going to do that twice. Chain 2, skip 2, single crochet 2. And then we'll get back to what we were doing before, which was chain 2, skip 2, single crochet 3. And we're going to repeat that until we have just 1 stitch left in our round. Join me at the end of your round and we'll move on from there. We're just about done with round 6 here. We've got 1 stitch left and we'll single crochet in that last stitch. Join with a slip stitch to the first single crochet of the round. I'm going to pull my loop up and out because I need to find my 8th space and mark it. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to grab a locking stitch marker and I'm just going to thread it through some stitches at the base of that space and just keep it there. We'll get back to it in a little bit. So go back to your round, and here for round 7, we're going to start with a chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch, 2 single crochets in each space. So insert your hook into the space, there's 1 single crochet and 2. We're going to single crochet in each single crochet. There's 1, 2, and 3. 2 single crochets into the space. And we're going to do that all the way around. Join with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the round. Meet me back here for round 8. So we're going to finish up round 7 here. Join with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the round. And to start round 8, we're going to chain 1 and single crochet in each of the next 16 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, here's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Here we're going to chain 2, skip 2, and continue single crocheting for a total of 36 stitches here. So 36 stitches, and then we're going to chain 2, skip 2, and single crochet the remaining 16 stitches in the round. And we're going to do that to create some holes for our strap on our bag. So complete that. For round 9, you're going to repeat the previous round where we filled in the spaces. So single crochet in each single crochet, 2 single crochets in each space. And then for round 10, we're going to single crochet in each stitch around, join with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the round. And at that point, we can fasten off because we'll be done with the body of our bag. We're at that last join at the end of round 10. So join with a slip stitch in the first single crochet of the round. Pull your loop up. And taking a look at our work, we can see that really beautiful single crochet to finish things off. We're going to cut our yarn, and I'm going to speed through a few finishing steps I did here, really focusing on weaving in my ends to get prepared for the rest of the finishing on my project. At this point, I'm turning my bag inside out so we can handle that opening left from our Tunisian crochet rows. We're actually just going to whip stitch this closed. So you just want to get a long length of your yarn. I usually measure about 3.5 lengths of the opening just to make sure I have plenty of yarn. I'm going to thread that onto a tapestry needle. And I'm going to start, let's start at the top here. So I want to find the edge stitches, insert under one side, insert under the edge stitch of the opposite side. Then I'm going to tie those ends together just to make sure it's nice and secure and I don't have any additional holes at the edges of my whip stitch seam. So go into the edge stitch and the edge stitch on the opposite side, pull through, tighten it up, but not too tight. You don't want any puckering back here. And it's okay to whip stitches here. You could also do a mattress stitch if you prefer. I found with this project a whip stitch seam is just fine. Keep whip stitching down the seam and then you can weave in your ends and we'll move on to the next part. Now it's time to make the drawstring. We're going to start by creating a slip knot and grab our 5mm hook. And we're going to chain 145 stitches. And just make sure you chain them fairly loosely because we will need to work into these later. I'm going to definitely speed through all of these chains because they took me forever. Just about done with these chains here. And once we're done, we're going to flip our chain over and work in the back bumps. And we're just going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. Slip stitch, Tony. Nope, not a single. Nope. Slip stitch. There we go. Okay. Slip stitch in each chain all the way down. And this is actually creating our drawstring. So by slip stitching down the chain, it gives the chain a little bit more integrity, doesn't allow it to stretch quite so much, and also just makes the drawstring a bit thicker and therefore easier to use. So slip stitch all the way down your chains, fasten off, and I'll show you how to thread through your drawstring. We finished our slip stitches here. I'm just cutting the yarn and I'm going to weave those tails into the chain. So I'm just going up 3 chains, down those same 3 chains, cut the yarn close to the drawstring here. And now we can go to the marked space on the front of our bag and insert one end of the drawstring through and weave it through the holes that are part of round 6. So we want to pull it through gently and evenly so that our lengths of drawstring in the front will be about even. I'm just zhuzhing it a bit, pulling the string one way and another way, making sure they're even. Now it's time to attach our beads. So we're going to grab our hook, place our bead on our hook, put the end of the drawstring through the hook, and then pull the bead up and over the drawstring. I'm going to give it a little space at the bottom, and I like to tie a loose knot at the base of the bead just as kind of a decorative accent. The beads are definitely not required, but I think they're cute to kind of offset the sameness of the whole color of our bag. So again, we're gonna, no, Tony, put the bead on the hook first. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, we're gonna put the bead on the hook, insert it into the base of the drawstring, pull through, and tie a loose knot at the end of the bead. Now the drawstring's all done. Last thing to do is the strap. The strap is done much like the drawstring, but we want to make sure we leave a nice long tail to start. So I put in the pattern about 15 inches. I know this is much more than 15 inches, but I like to be, I'd rather be safe than sorry, you know? So for the strap, we're going to chain 165 and make sure you're keeping that fairly loose. Chain 165, meet me once all your chains are done. We're about done with our chains here, and then we're going to fasten off, and we want to leave a long tail on this side as well. So I'm just grabbing the other side of my chain, kind of measuring out how long that tail was, and clipping this tail to about the same length. Again, it doesn't have to be exact, but you do want a long tail here. So just like with the drawstring, we're going to now slip stitch down this chain. So we want to find the back bumps, grab our yarn, insert our hook into the first back bump, just like so, yarn over, pull up the loop, and that counts as our first slip stitch. And we're going to slip stitch in each chain all the way down the row. And once we get to the end of these slip stitches, we're going to leave a long 15-inch tail on that side as well. And here we are with our finished strap, and we've got tails on both sides. So we're going to find one of the chain spaces that was left in round 8. Those were for our strap. And I'll show you how I liked to attach my strap. You can do it however you prefer. So I'm going to take the 2 tails on one side. I'm going to thread one of those tails through the hole. Sorry, this got a little off camera. I just got excited because I was at the end. And I'm just going to just tie a knot on the inside of my work. I'm going to tie a nice knot to secure the strap to the bag here, and then we're going to do some decorative wrapping to make it look a little bit better. So grab one of the ends, probably whichever one is longer, and keeping the yarn nice and flat, I'll just start wrapping it around the strap. I'm going to wrap it about 1.5 inches or so away from the bag, and then wrap it down back towards the bag. And sorry, this got off camera again. I was just really excited to get this finished up so I could use it. So I'm just wrapping. Don't worry, the reveal is coming. There it is. We did good. So now I'm going to take that same end and I'm going to wrap it through the chain space. And I'm going to wrap it up a couple times to the left of the strap. So 2 times I think feels good. And now I'm going to wrap it up towards the right of the strap 2 times as well. Again, keeping the yarn nice and flat so it stays flush with the project. 2 times is good here. I'm going to go to the inside of the bag and just double knot it, nothing fancy. And then I'll cut those tails and I'll weave them into the wrong side of the bag. You'll then want to do the same thing for the opposite side of the strap, and we're going to be done. A good last step is to block your Harper Bucket bag. You can put some t-shirts or maybe some pillowcases inside your bag and then just steam it, and that'll help the stitches relax. And just like that, our Harper Bucket bag is complete. I know I'm patting myself on the back for a job well done, and I really hope you are too. I'd love if you tagged #Harper Bucket Bag when sharing on Instagram, and you can share your projects inside the TLYC Makers group on Facebook. If you're looking for more crochet inspiration, check out the video that just popped up on screen or click over to tlycblog.com. Until next time, I'm Tony of TL Yarn Crafts, and I hope you have the best day.